Yo Nemi gang, today we are talking matchup knowledge in Tekken 8. Tekken 8 has 36 characters as of right now, with way more to come, with each of these characters having at least 50 plus moves. So learning how to fight every single character is one of the most difficult things to learn in Tekken 8. It requires so much of your dedication and commitment. So with that said, I'm going to give you guys a few tips on how you can improve your matchup knowledge, and hopefully this helps you learn how to deal with at least most of the characters on the cast. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so first let's start with the obvious and perhaps the most important. This one is directed towards the more competitive players, those of you that love to take part in offline tournaments. And of course, this is by having a training partner or a training buddy. I don't mean a rival, but an actual training partner. Now, I don't say rival because a rival usually doesn't want to play with you. They want to play with you, but they want to beat you, and they won't be happy to train with you. But a training partner is someone you can fight with while you're learning at the same time. Learn to differentiate the two guys. That can be the difference between leveling up and actually not improving overall in a Tekken game. Now, the reason why a training partner is good is because you have the added benefit of practicing a new character or a character you're not familiar with your friend rather than alone. So let's say a new character drops. Let's say Clive drops. Of course, check out the character, go throughout his move list, and maybe you're not a fan of the character, so you won't want to play the character, then you're going to ranked, run into a bunch of Clives and get your ass kicked. But when you have a training partner, you can both learn the character. Just don't actually go deep into the character, but just sparsely learn the character, learn his most important moves, his good lows, then just run the mirror with your friend over and over and over again. Like, this is the most easiest way to learn matchups in this game. Training partner, pick up a character you both struggle with, just run the mirrors. A good example is Pakistan, bro. Pakistan is amazing at doing this. If you never watched an Aslan Ash stream, one of his long sets when a new character drops, please advise you to do that. This is why this man is so strong. Like, these guys would be playing a mirror match with a new character, and every time they don't understand something, they stop playing. They're like, bro, what was that? What just happened? Like, what did you do? Why did they get hit? They're training. Like, they're playing against each other, but they're trading at the same time. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, this, like I said, doesn't really matter all that much for someone that plays online. This is mostly towards those that are competitive. You like offline tournaments or offline locals. This is, honestly, I think it's a must. You must have like a training partner stroke a rival that you can just say, bro, can you log on right now? Let's try this Victor matchup together. You know, something like that. That's very important. Another example I can give is JD Sarah and Saint, right? Aslan Ash and Atif, Chanel and Ni. All these players are super strong. They've all been successful, and they are training partners. This is why they are so strong. So guys, get a training partner, run the mirrors in matches, just learn the matchups together. Now, the fighting game is kind of a sad life. Not everyone has the luxury of having a training partner or a training friend, a training buddy, and I'm talking from experience. So this option is not available to everyone, so you might have to find different ways on learning matchups in Tekken 8. Now, this is something I mentioned last time. Okay, so just a basic way to do this is firstly going through the new character's move list. Let's say Clive drops, right? Go through his move list, then firstly go check out the lows. The lows are the best way to open up opponents in Tekken 8. So figure out which characters' lows are cheap, which characters' lows are broken, which characters' lows are bad. Check out the frame data and try by all means to master these lows. But like, expect these lows and be ready with the punishers when you go online. This applies to the mids as well. Know which are like the best mids or the strongest mids the character has, and just see your ways around it, how you can deal with it and stuff like that. For example, for me, I can say Azucena up to now is a character I haven't really had all that much experience with. I think most of my losses online are from Azucena. I'm not sure. I just don't know what it is about this matchup, but I just kind of freeze up. So for reference here, I'm using Azucena. In practice mode, I know she's got a full crouch low. She has down back 4, which is minus 14 on block. Full crouch down for 3 is minus 13. She has a heel sweep in her, I don't know what the stance is called, but she goes into stance and she has a 50-50 between the heel sweep and the 1+2, which is a huge launch mid. So I go and I see like, okay, how can I deal with this mix-up, right? I can backswing blow maybe, I can backswing blow to beat the low, I can power crush to beat the mid 50-50 after like, you know, the 1-2 punish into the stance. Just basic stuff like this, just to get you ready for certain things the opponent will mostly spam when you go into an online set. Something like a running 3-2. We all know how toxic running 3-2 with Azucena was, how busted it was. It's been nerfed, but just because it's been nerfed doesn't mean you're going to be ready for it when you find it online without actually doing some research on the move. So go into practice mode, just see your ways around these particular moves and see how best you can deal with this. This is very, very important in terms of matchup knowledge. Now, surely, like, I do agree there are so many characters, like I said, 36 characters, and if you don't know how to fight every one of them, doing this is not easy, and sometimes you even get tired at some point. You'll go through like 3 characters, be like, oh man, like this is just too much, you know. I'll go online, you go to ranked, you get shredded, you get wrecked. So as good as this is, not very practical for the entire roster. Like, you will get fed up, you will get tired at some point, which brings me to my second point, going into practice mode and fighting the CPU. So get the character you are not very familiar with. Again, I will use Azucena for reference because it's one of my worst matchups. So I'll put Azucena in practice mode, activate the CPU and set the difficulty on ultra hard and just fight the CPU. Like, I'll just fight the CPU. I explained this in one of my past videos. The CPU tends to have a couple of moves that they usually spam. Now, of course, this is programmed, right? So it's a program, that means it will have certain habits in terms of, you know, the offense that it initiates on you. Like, this has been this case since like what, Tekken 3. So just go into practice mode with the character you struggle against with, set up the CPU and just fight the CPU. Now, I mean, don't try to, like, you know, bully the CPU, combos and all that stuff. You're trying to learn how to defend against this character. So try to just play the character, see what strings you keep spamming. Then if there's a string that keeps hitting you and you don't know what it is, you know, activate the practice mode again, go to the move list, find the string, learn how to deal with this, boom, turn on the CPU again and just continue fighting. Start punishing the CPU now when it spams these strings. And the CPU tends to have a habit of actually using strong moves in practice mode, something I've noticed, because you can do this in arcade mode as well. Like, just go into arcade mode and just fight every character you see. But the thing is, arcade mode difficulty isn't as good as the CPU difficulty. I have tested this and it's just not the same. You can bully the CPU in the arcade mode. It doesn't really block all that much as compared to the CPU in arcade mode. So it's honestly, it's better to do this in practice mode and just fight the CPU. Trust me, this will elevate your game. Like, honestly, this is something I used to do a lot back in Tekken 6. I had Tekken 6 on PSP and I used to do this a lot. Now, I got like half the roster to, I think Tekken God was the highest offline rank at that point back in Tekken 6. This is where I got most of my matchup knowledge against the Ganryus, the Becks, because the CPU tends to have, a CPU in arcade mode at that point tended to have a bunch of cheap moves they used to spam, like the Ganryu down back to, right? Down back to Hell Sweep. Sorry, the down back to Snake Edge into like Bound. The CPU did that a lot. So you kind of like have a programmed, you're kind of like programmed to expect that move when you fight a regular Ganryu. So that kind of applies to practice mode as well, except in practice mode, the CPU won't be throwing out these bad moves like Brian Snake Edge, or, you know, low Dragon's Tail, or at least very rarely from what I've noticed. I might be wrong. Maybe the CPU wasn't just in the mood to throw out those moves, but it tends to throw out decent moves, but mostly very choreographed strings. And this is something you need to practice against, because strings are what mess up a lot of newer Tekken players, or even someone unfamiliar with the character. Strings like Jun, bro. I know half of you right now still don't know how to deal with Jun's mega bullshit string. So put Jun in practice mode, activate the CPU and just fight the character. You don't know how to deal with something, you know, deactivate the CPU, go to practice mode, go through the move list, find out the move, find out what the move is, and then learn how to deal with this move. Another way, of course, is by watching Tekken 8 matches. This is perhaps one of the most underrated ways of learning matchup, because I think about watching matches, and I mean like high level matches, stuff like Tekken 8 replays, where they always upload matches of high level players online. Like, these matches are very important for just learning how characters work, or just learning something new, some new tech, and mostly matchup knowledge. I do not have Heihachi right now, but I have no problem fighting Heihachi. Like, he's strong, don't get me wrong, but I really know how to deal with the character despite not having the character. Down forward 1-2, the just frame version, is something that was troubling me at first, but I just watched people play against Heihachi and I was like, oh, you can sidestep the down forward 1-2. You can interrupt the down forward 1-2 as well, you know, midstream with the jab. So that's something I found out without even playing against the character in practice. Just by watching matches, watching people fight Heihachi, I learned stuff about this matchup. Another character was Eddie, right? I don't have Eddie either, but I watched a bunch of Zhongding. I do love watching Eddie, by the way. I might pick him up for season 2. We will see. But like, Eddie is a character to blow you up if you don't really know how to deal with him. But I knew, like, honestly, the first time they showed Eddie on the Tekken dev team, they were talking about 333, 333, 333, right? I noticed that the second part of 333 is a high. The first time I found an Eddie online, he spawned 333, and I ducked that shit and I launched it just because I watched a video and I was like, oh, okay, you can just duck this string, right? Sometimes just watching is enough for you to learn how to deal with the character. It might not work for every one of you, but for someone that's like, you know, used to something like this or just has a good experience at learning stuff through watching, it will be very easy for you to fight a character you've never faced just by watching what the character does, but you know, just by watching matches. So it's another very good way to learn matchup knowledge. Of course, checking out your replays as well, your matches, and seeing what you didn't do well against the character is another good way to research on the particular move you're struggling with, and just take that to practice mode and see how best you can deal with this particular move. Now, of course, like I said, 30 is a lot of characters, and this is not easy, guys. It's not easy. It will take time. You won't boot up your console right now or your PC right now and be a god at every match just by doing this. This is something that comes with time, something that comes with experience. There's a reason why they say Tekken is a legacy game, because most people that played the game from Tekken 3 up to Tekken 8 right now have they've got so much matchup knowledge, because most of the characters haven't really changed from Tekken 3 in terms of their move list. Most of their iconic moves are still in the game. Like back one, Steve came in Tekken 5, and it's been the same until Tekken 8. So people really know how to deal with back one, right? Brian Snake Age has been in the game for a long time. So people really know how to deal or what to expect when they're playing Brian. Dragonov as well. One thing JDR said in Tekken 8 caught my attention. He said, I struggle very much with most of these new characters because they're playing a different Tekken from the one I knew before. He struggled a lot with Akuma. Like, I think JDCR's highest loss ratio in Tekken 7 was against Akuma. So basically new characters. So that's my point when they say Tekken 8 or Tekken is a legacy game. So I'm not saying if you started in Tekken 7 or you started in Tekken 8, you won't know how to deal with certain matchups, but it will take you time, guys. A lot of time and a lot of effort, a lot of dedication. So just keep practicing, keep grinding, and you figure out certain characters at some point eventually, guys. Eventually, trust the process. Anyway, as you know, I like my videos nice, short, and sweet. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate the support. Don't forget to hit that like button. As usual, subscribe if you're new. And the friend that be ever in your favor. GG, my boys.